Rufai, this has generated significant reaction. I mean, the presidency argues the reforms were necessary to reset a broken system. But for millions of Nigerians, the bigger question remains, when do these macroeconomic gains translate into cheaper food, lower transport costs, and better living standards? And I'll take one reaction before I come to you, Rufai. This is from Bims, who wrote on X. The best measure of economic reforms isn't what leaders say. It's what citizens experience. I mean, that really is what it is. You wanted to respond.
Yes, you said it all. C'est fini là-bas.
Right.
It's what citizens feel. You see, the problem with the reforms is the fact that there's been lack of transparency and truth in the process. Oji, President Tinubu announced subsidy gone in 2023. Do you know that he continued paying subsidy despite telling Nigerians that the reason why they announced subsidy gone was because it was not in the budget? NMPC record shows that 7.1 trillion was paid in subsidy. Do you know what they did, Oji? They hide the name. They didn't call it subsidy. You know what they called it? Energy security expenses. You see this level of lack of transparency. Energy security expenses. It was just like when Buhari government came in. You know, Buhari said something was a scam. It didn't exist and everything. When he's also started paying subsidy, you know what he called it? Under recovery. So it is this lack of transparency that kills this country. And Ayo, I get your points. I don't want people to suffer. I play in that space. I do a lot of advocacy for people. But Ayo, we need to jolt our leaders. Ayo, what happened to this country? We have seen the likes of the Machimogu. We have seen the likes of Malami, forfeiture and everything. We need to jolt our country back. Ayo, I cry for Nigeria this morning. Let me read something to you. Why I'm crying, why I scream sometimes for this country. On the 23rd of December, 1974, Nigeria signed a long-term borrowing agreement with the World Bank. Under this agreement, Nigeria provided $240 million in net resources to the World Bank reserves. Ayo, we're borrowing World Bank money.
We're lending.
We're lending World Bank money to do development projects for other countries. In 1975, we also lent 120 million to the IMF. This country was not depending on aid in the 70s. I feel like crying this morning. What has happened to this country? And because people are looting the country dry. The same country that was lending World Bank money, $240 million in the 70s. In that same 70s, do you know that Britain was going to the World Bank to loan money because they had an economic crisis? That time we were lending them money.
All right. Hello, everyone. Honestly, on Nigeria's matter, if you really think about it, sometimes you just feel like crying. You might even cry. And looking at the fact that if nothing is done about it, it's only going to get worse. It's something that should concern, everyone. Is it the looting? The looting is out of this world. The subsidy he talked about, I remember during Buhari, when the name they could say under recovery, that was the name they called. They gave it another name. Buhari came in 2016 and said subsidy had been removed. They even increased the price of petrol. The increase was so high. Even when NLC wanted to come out and do, protests as per usual, Nigerians were not interested. They were like, oh, no, they should leave that thing, and just leave it and all of that. Because they felt, okay, subsidy will be removed. Let's pay this price and cost. And with time, we know the money that are being spent on subsidy, where you see a lot of corruption, it should no longer be there. It turned out to be a lie. Same thing, of course, from Tinubu's illegitimate administration. You don't expect anything good out of it. Honestly, even the rate at which you see people with all manner of criminality being the ones who are giving offices of responsibility, position of responsibility to hold, that tells you everything. There's another case of someone who is accused of sexual harassment, a serious sexual harassment, accused. He has been given the position nominated for ambassador. They are over there in the Senate talking about it. Well, that story for another day. Anyways, but the basic fact is to see how much we've had to suffer in our country, a country that had the potential. In 1960, when we got our independence, Nigeria was tagged to be amongst the country that will be at least amongst the top 10, top 5. But over time, we've so much disappointed ourselves. And for me, when I think about the leadership of Nigeria, one of the leaders that I blame so much, I get so angry looking at the wasted opportunity, is actually Yakubu Gowon. Yakubu Gowon had the opportunity to have changed the fortunes of Nigeria. But of course, what did he go about saying? Oh, money was not his problem. How to spend the money was his problem. They were doing odoji. You know, it's so painful that Africa at the time when the world needed the maturity of age, maturity, experience, wisdom of, you know, of age, Africa was getting very young presidents. People were being presidents in their 20s, in their 30s, and thereabout. And now, and the rest of the world had more matured, you know, leaders and all of that. Now that the world needs more of innovative kind of leadership, where you're looking for younger leadership, guess what? Africa is the one that is saddled with, you know, old leaders, and most of them are the people who have been in position all throughout, you know, from independence till now. Either them or their children or their stooges, they are the ones that are still being in place, and that of course has affected, you know, a lot of things in terms of us developing, in terms of us, you know, trying to just be in a position where we can compete favorably. You know, the kind of thing that even if you are not ahead, right? But at least be in a position where when they talk, you might go get mouth to talk. Not the one that we are in Nigeria, where you literally don't even have mouth to actually say anything. You just see a country that is just mixed up by certain people. And if you see the way that Nigeria has helped also a lot of the countries around, Nigeria just played that big brother without expecting anything. You know, the way that US is to the world is the way Nigeria is supposed to be to Africa. In fact, Nigeria is one of the things that is holding back the rest of Africa. Yes, we are one of the things that have really affected. We've not occupied our role well, and where we ended up spending so much of our resources and everything on helping other countries within Africa without doing anything. Most especially South Africa, we lost a lot because of South Africa, because we're fighting apartheid. We nationalized a lot of the companies that were owned by UK banks, oil companies. BP, British Petroleum, was changed to AP, African Petroleum, and a whole lot of other things. And we lost so much in that whole process, only for these ingrates that we have now that are doing everything to disrespect Nigeria, do all manner of things, you know, to Nigeria. And you sit down and you just think, and you know, if we don't fix this leadership problem, it's only going to get worse. Our prayers will not help us, because God will not do for us what He has given us the capacity for us to do for ourselves. And most importantly, also, faith without work is dead.
Like this, yes. If they explain Nigeria to you, you yourself go tired. You understand? You yourself go tired. When I watch that video, I Rufai almost cry. You understand? Because of the thing they have for this country, the way our government loot money. You understand? We they lend money for bank. Once upon a time, when Nigeria they borrow on that country money. Now they borrow money for that people. Is that not a shame? You understand? These are not going well. Now you see some people who come and call they support this APC, they support this government. They talk anyhow. Well, it is well.